start with 4 questions. Question number 1 is, what do I want? Write that question and write everything that comes to your mind. Anything from new shoes to a home on the beach to a trip to Greece to everything that comes through. Everything is a goal. For 3 minutes minimum, you write, this is what I want, and you just write it. The second question is going to be, what do I want the most? Now, that might be a surprising answer because what you might find your subconscious to give you as an answer was not even on a list from what you want. So you write down what I want the most, you answer it. The third question is going to be, what outcomes do I want? Because a lot of us think we want things because we associate a certain outcome with having them. The tragedy for successful entrepreneurs is they get the outcome, but the feeling doesn't come. And then the real emptiness settles in. So what do I want? What do I want the most? What outcomes, plural, do I want? The fourth question is, what outcome do I want the most? Once you have an answer to what outcome you want the most, and your outcome might be, I just want to be home with my kids while making $250,000 a year. And I'm terrified to say it out loud. Don't have to, but that's your outcome. I want a freedom of being home with my kids, traveling the world, working 5 hours a week. Is that even possible? You have to come up with that outcome. Once you write that outcome, then the fun begins.
Namaste, sweet souls. My name is Shilpa, and you're listening to the Omni Mindfulness podcast. I am a mindset and meditation coach for professional women and mompreneurs. The purpose of this show is to offer stories and content that allows you to increase your awareness of your authentic self and be inspired by connecting to the personal and professional stories of other souls. Souls who are walking the walk and living everyday human experiences with inspired intentions. These are the stories that will expand your consciousness and spark within you to ask, what if? Each season, I offer content to help you create a holistic lifestyle that embodies spirituality, mindfulness, mindset, and energy awareness. Through my conversations with experts in their niche area and solo casts from yours truly, my intention is to help you holistically revitalize, reset, and relax your body, mind, and spirit. I'm your host and founder of Omni Mindfulness. So ask yourself, what if just one story could be the catalyst to shift the trajectory of my life? What if I become instrumental in serving other souls to realize their true self? And what if my soul's higher purpose is in the realization of Omni Mindfulness joy? It's never too late to rewrite your story. And now, today's episode. We are now in the 6th podcast season. Each month, my guests and I explore a facet of how mindfulness applies to modern day living. In April, my guests and I delve into the topic of eco-conscious living. The topic of courage and resiliency is covered in May, and wrapping up the season of mindfulness in June with the topic of heart-centered awareness. Stay tuned. And my next guest is Dr. Victoria Rader. Dr. Rader is a possibility coach, transformational speaker, and founder of You Too Shine. Dr. Rader empowers coaches, entrepreneurs, and people that seek personal development to grow in all areas of their life through the proven formula of success so that they have more peace, purpose, and prosperity. She is a 4 times best-selling author who is globally recognized along with Dr. Brene Brown, Richard Branson, and others for creative and innovative ideas, adaptability in business, and contributions to sustainability, and with mental health projects. Dr. Rader provides tremendous value through her wisdom on the topic of heart-centered awareness. And now, here is Dr. Victoria Rader. Well, Victoria, welcome.
Thank you so much, Shilpa, for having me.
Of course, I am so excited and so honored. So the theme of this particular podcast is heart-centered awareness. And I believe a lot of people that I speak with on my podcast are already living that as the essence of their being. And I'd love to hear your perspective and your journey on how you arrived at what you do and what was the catalyst?
You know, first of all, the second you said heart-centered awareness, it was very interesting how it lit up for me that usually when we talk about awareness, it's mind, and out of nowhere, these numbers came in. I think it's probably from Heart Institute that Greg Braden popularized the study of, is that the electric power of the heart, uh, I believe, is like 60 times as powerful as that of the brain, but the magnetic power of the heart is 5,000 times more powerful. I don't know why that came in, but I'm sure there's an alignment in that, is that we've been taught that awareness is acquired through mind. Um, and I think we've disconnected mind from the heart and placed it in the brain. And now, thanks to the depth of your question, I'm understanding that my journey has been bringing the awareness from my mind to my heart, thus shifting from my brain to my heart, thus expanding the mind presence. So expanding the mindfulness into the heart. I grew up in the former Soviet Union in Ukraine. Everybody now knows where Ukraine is, unfortunately, because of the devastation that is happening there. And I was growing up on the backhand of the regime falling apart. It was, it was communist regime that was socialist regime that was falling apart, and it did not provide for any choices as freedom of agency would provide for you. And when I say that it was a luxury to grow that way, I really truly mean it, because when you're stripped of freedom outside, you have an invitation to find freedom inside. And I truly believe that the fact that I had to go deep into my heart and find the connection and the courage there was because of the frustration of not being able to choose the classes I wanted to take, move from one city to the other because you didn't have a stamp in your passport that allowed you to do that. So the limited choices externally have created an environment where I found infinite possibilities in my heart. Now, I was a teen. I didn't have either this language or this awareness of what was happening. But looking back, I understand that that is where my journey begins. It begins in going deep into my heart center and saying, this is my secret sacred, I call it. Nobody can touch it with their thoughts, hands, criticisms. Whatever I create deep within me is my refuge, and I get to guard it, and I don't have to disclose it. So the miraculous process for me throughout the years has become that as I was retreating into this peaceful feeling, regardless of the outside, all of a sudden those same feelings and visions started appearing in my reality. And very early on, I said, wait a minute, this is Soviet Union. This is pre manifesting and law of attraction hype, right? This is just the awareness of what is the connection. And very quickly, early into my early 20s, I've come to realize that the reality I was living on the outside was previously created on the inside through the feeling I was assigning to what I was doing. I got married very early, and I expected my husband to make me happy. The major problem of every newlywed, I think. I didn't learn how to be happy completely, so it was his job to make me happy, which of course led to a lot of excitement the first 10 years of marriage. Um, that led to some personal devastation and disease and frustration financially and lack. And I found myself in a period of what I would call sheer darkness and fighting that darkness to find solutions, only to one night be awoken with a very beautiful and tender vision of, and the saying, you cannot defeat the darkness, you can only turn on the light. So that is the process of coming to that awareness from I am creating what I'm creating. Oh, wait, I'm creating misery and pain. And then to learning to expand peace and purpose, learning how to do that, and then teaching and guiding my clients and then my coaches and now my audiences to do the same. That is probably the general theme of how things have happened.
And what's remarkable about this journey is that common to many people who go on as healers or teachers is that they unconsciously may have chosen that role because they had written an agreement, I believe, an agreement to learn those lessons.
Yeah.
And then having come through it, through the expansion of what you've gone through, it sounds like you're now taking that wisdom as a guide and coach for others.
I believe so, and I believe it's true of every single one of us. I, I, you and I are very intuitive people, and so this comes so loudly into my heart that I'm going to share this, and I know it'll speak to somebody more than any golden nuggets I thought of. Many, many years ago, probably 18 years ago or so, this woman who I've met, well, actually back in my church, I've met her once and was not close to her at all. She pulled me aside and she said, you changed my life. I said, what are you talking about? She said, when my baby was born with severe autism, you came up to me and you held my baby and you said, she's so beautiful and you're so blessed to have her. Shilpa, I don't remember that moment. And what I've realized is that we impact humanity the most when we intend to impact humanity the least, because the desire to impact is the ego desire. And the soul is so present in the moment of love and lives so fully from the place of heart that the greatest impact we have no awareness of unless somebody else brings it to awareness. That to me is the humility pill I choose to take daily in one way or the other. When I hear my ego say, oh, this is going to change people, I go back to, is it changing you, Vika? If it's changing you, it's plenty. Let it unfold in a miraculous way you have no idea and no control of. So I think that is hopefully helpful for somebody who feels, oh, when I have the audience, when I have the program, when I have, then, no, you've already changed the flow of this universe infinitely by the moment of love outside of your awareness. And if you want to see it, you can pray and meditate asking when, and it'll come to your awareness.
Absolutely. And perhaps, like you were saying, maybe you will not necessarily be aware of the impact you have. However, I believe everything starts with intentions. If my intention is spiritual growth within myself and to spread the message of what I believe is going to uplift others, then I don't need to overly orchestrate or think about how my message is better than others or what am I doing? Because I see a lot of that among coaches these days. It's like, they are this, I am this makes me better. And I don't believe that it's going to help getting the ego involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just hired a bunch of young guys for my team, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I really know nothing about so many things. And sometimes it's so helpful to be shown your weakness and vulnerability so that you can become eager of relearning what you've come to believe. I think the danger for any one of us spiritual um, coaches is the moment that I'm looking for is when I think or say, this is the way it's done. I know that prevents growth because it's just a way it has been done. And there is always a more expensive way. There is always a more expensive way. And I think it's joyful. Um, a lot of us, I believe, don't know how to laugh at our failures and take them as feedback and be compassionate. And so we become too serious. We assign seriousness to spirituality. I think that's devastating because where spirituality is, joy is. They're one and the same. Spirituality is expansion of joy, right? My son, when he was tiny, I don't know, 13, 14 months, somewhere there, he would eat spaghetti with his hands and he would enjoy it so much that sometimes he would like put it on his head and fall asleep. I actually got it on camera where he's putting it in his face and then eyes, and he puts it on his head, and all of a sudden he's asleep with spaghetti on his face, you know. And my husband are just laughing at that. And you know, I think so often in our life we cover ourselves with spaghetti, you know, whatever it means, and then we're so harsh on ourselves while the divine God source, I think, finds us so infinitely cute in our attempt to discover, you know, the path of growth. And so I think when we mess up, and we do, you know, some people say there's no right and wrong, and I say, well, there is a polarity. There is always a better way to learn something. And I truly believe harming another human being, quote unquote, is wrong because there's a better way to do it. Now, you can take the right lesson from the wrong circumstance, but it's not the same as, oh, my soul had a contract to go kick him. No, your soul had a contract to teach him forgiveness. Your ego is telling you to go kick them for them to learn forgiveness. You know, people confuse those things. And I think it's so important for us to focus on growing spiritually by seeing that there is a better way, laughing off our awkwardness, and then forgiving anything that can be done better and learning from it. That's probably the growth with grace and ease, at least for me.
I find my personal challenge often is giving myself grace.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to give it to others, but I think the moment you set your standards on, let's say, the way I see it is, I'm living a heart-centered life, but then I put the onus of responsibility of being so good all the time.
Spaghetti,
Yeah.
Shilpa, it's
Yeah.
cute.
You know, and I do remember Yogananda. You know, I'm a member, I'm not a member, I'm a disciple of Yogananda. And he in his temple there was a monk who was known to be very childlike, and in different readings it comes out that being more childlike and simple is the path. And intuitively this morning, it probably because I was going to talk to you, that thought came into my mind that sometimes it's the simplicity and just the daily life approach to how we function personally and professionally. If it comes from a place of simplicity, it allows us to give us that grace that often we forget.
I believe that. And you know, it's interesting that you and I have talked. I don't know whether you have a video version of the podcast, but if you do, and if somebody's watching it and not just listening it, Yogananda is behind you, and he and I have very similar look today. I've gotten the orange and the hair, and you know, my master is Christ, and he's behind me. And it's interesting that you mentioned it because the teachings of the truth are identical teachings because they come from one and the same source, right? And so being childlike, to enjoy the joy of presence of the divine, is an eternal teaching. It just is true. And I think living from the heart is seeking the truth that warm the heart. It's back to that simple. For me, the word love has an acronym. So One of the concepts that I am mastering and hence teaching, because we all teach what we master, is surrender to love. My joke that's not very funny anymore with the war in Ukraine. I say, Ukrainians don't surrender well. You can see that. We do not surrender. We stand for our freedom. But I think surrender spiritually means something very different. It doesn't mean rolling over and letting pain to prevail. That's not what surrender is. But being a Ukrainian woman, I've been pondering a lot. What does it mean to surrender? I was in my sacred temple and I'm sitting there, and the Spirit says, and I'm pondering and meditating on what surrender is. And the Spirit says, you're sitting on the bench right now, lift up your feet. So I'm like, okay, I can't get any weirder than I already am, so there it is. So I lift my feet up. As I lift my feet up, there's this full realization. I am now surrendering my weight to the bench. I'm fully supported by the bench. So when I surrender to love, I allow full support of the divine for me. Full means full. And it's not easy. It's that simplicity that you talk about. So, this is where the acronym for love came in, which is life originating a vibrant emotion or energy in motion. So to me, it's very simple. If I add life, I love. If I subtract life, I don't love. So to live from the heart center is to continually seek to add life, whether it is to a person, a place, an event, and yes, myself. I don't believe that you can love others more than yourself, and you cannot love yourself more than others, because where love is, it is. And that love comes through me, for me, and then for others. And if I lie to myself that I'm sacrificing myself for the sake of others and that's love, that's not love. If I'm resenting while serving, that's not love. That's not love.
Yeah, and it goes back to the intention, and the intention carries the energy. Mm-hmm. So if you are doing anything but your heart is not in it, how would I say that? If your intention, I almost feel like the energy of your heart and intention are the same.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I believe that fully.
Now, you've given me a lovely painting or picture of who you are. Can you share what you are now doing with this heart-centered work?
One of the most delightful things for me right now is a project called Quantum Freedom. In 2019, I have a beautiful space where I'm doing this conversation from, in my office, and it accommodates for about 20 people session, and seminar. And I've started selling out the sessions and running a little bit of time. And I took my whole group and attendance at that time as a subscription. And I thought that's probably to accommodate for lack of space. We launched that in January 2020 as Quantum Freedom. And of course, by March, the world shut down due to COVID. And looking back, that prompting of moving everything on a Zoom supported platform before it was a thing to do was a miracle in and of itself. So we unfolded the Course in Miracles, and we expanded to group healing. We expanded to I'm in business now. What? All of these powerful spiritual programs for mindful entrepreneurs. And it became Quantum Freedom because to me, freedom comes in stages, and this is where the heart kicks in. I think the first stage for all of us in different areas of our life is survival. In money, we can be surviving. In relationship, we can be surviving. In health, we can be surviving. The next stage is stability. And to go from survival to stability, you change your habits. It's basic. It's a basic personal growth from survival to stability, change of habits. Now, from stability to success is change of mindset. But from success to significance is change of heart. To live a life of significance requires a change of heart. And so when you look at the concept of freedom, when you're in survival, you try to be free from something, free from debt, free from abuse, free from disease. Survival wants you to be free from something. When you get to stability, in stability, you become free to do something. You start taking, you take actions, you feel proactive, you become an action figure to a degree. We've all gone through it's a part of spiritual journey. Being an action figure is a part of spiritual journey, right? So you do things, you're free to do things to change your life, and you're very excited because you're gaining power to change your life. And then you get to a different level of success, and you understand that doing things is irrelevant. It's only who you become as you do those things. That's that mindset. So now you shift from free to do to free to be. Who do you want to be? And what you're describing is do everything you do through a place of service from the heart. So what you're describing is who you want to be. You want to be a service-oriented, impactful being that you've come to be. But I think significance for all of us of humanity comes at uniting. And so we become free to be one. So the journey of quantum freedom is free from something, then free to do something, then free to be you, and then free to be one. And in all parts of our life, we're progressing and we're increasing our awareness to that nourishing freedom of being one. And that, to me, is what quantum freedom stands for. And that is how we support our community. And it just brings me immense joy to see all of these shifts for the mindful entrepreneurs that join it.
That's wonderful. Metaphorically, it reminds me of a lotus and the expansion. And the expansion also means that the further you expand, you're growing and you're also uniting with the energy around you.
Beautiful.
That's wonderful. And what is the name of the program if others are curious to get in contact? Obviously, I'll leave it in the show notes, but I'd love for you to share more.
The program is called Quantum Freedom. I think the easiest and free way to do it, we want to start with free. I have a theory: before you pay, play. Pay for what brings you joy when you play with it. We're for this purpose, we're just launched a free Facebook group. And to find that, if you go to freeme.coach, free me, that's the purpose for what I believe I've been born. So freeme.coach, it'll take you to a Facebook group that is called You to Shine, Freedom, Empowerment, Prosperity, Freedom, and Empowerment for Mindful Entrepreneurs. And what that group does is that I do mini taste every week that we will do universal laws. Every week we will look at a different universal law of its frequency as the law, of its expression in life, and impact for an entrepreneur. And I think that as that community grows, and if you will want to know more about Quantum Freedom membership, you'll be invited to learn more about it from there.
That is wonderful and so timely for women, particularly that are seeking to become entrepreneurs while remaining in alignment for their core values.
Yes. Yeah. I think when I share this thought, I send so much love with it because it can touch someone's wounded heart, and that would be the least of my intention. But I think sometimes unprocessed truth needs to be spoken in order to be invited. I believe as women, we've come to limit ourselves, believing that men limited us. I believe this is the harshest lie that we as women use to excuse not reclaiming our power. And I think when we understand that man or no man, we as women can be all we allow ourselves to be. Barriers fall, walls separate, oceans part. Somebody asked me, well, doesn't it bother that in coaching industry, women get paid differently from men? I said, it doesn't, because I make 3 times what any man does. Is that what you're referring to? I mean, so it's going to be your mindset as a woman. I know we're going against centuries of subconscious limitation, and yes, abuse. Some of the some of the most successful entrepreneur women today are dealing with abuse at home. It's this truth. And the reason that is happening is because their spirit is reclaiming her power. And there's a better way to do that, So I think it's an important message.
There's so many lessons there, not only from the perspective of a business woman or female entrepreneur, but also from just the perspective of where are you coming from to do the work you're doing. And in this case, going back to the topic, which is heart-centered awareness, is it could be heart-centered work, or as you were describing, going up that ladder or pyramid of consciousness. It could be about unity.
Mhm. Absolutely. Unity is love, right?
Yeah.
If I'm at the moment of love, I am one with the bug, I'm one with the leaf, I'm one with my lovely host. It's just the love. Love is unity. So
Wonderful. So to bring this full circle, given the wisdom that you have, the types of lessons you provide through your services, are there any nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to share with, I would say, aspiring female entrepreneurs who are trying to find their way, navigate their way? And because one of the biggest challenges I see over and over is overwhelm, feeling stuck at times, or unfulfilled, which is usually the first thing that happens, that it becomes a catalyst to, I want to do more.
yes, I want to offer a step-by-step, very practical, beautiful, implementable system, of that has worked for hundreds of my clients. And because it is simple, you might feel like you want to skip steps. Don't. There's a reason why it works. And ask those questions that I'm giving you literally without adapting the words. Why? Because those words have been polished through thousands of sessions. Okay. What I find is that while there isn't one answer, there is an answer that frees most blocks. Most of us are stuck because we truly don't know what we want. And we feel that we want something and we want it yesterday and we don't have it. That's the cause for all overwhelm in a nutshell. So the first 4 questions that are pondering questions, and I would set a timer and ponder for at least 3 minutes and write it. We're talking 12 minutes, well, 15, I guess, but 12 minutes to start with 4 questions. Question number 1 is, what do I want? Write that question and write everything that comes to your mind. Anything from new shoes to a home on the beach to a trip to Greece to everything that comes through. Everything is a goal. For 3 minutes minimum, you write, this is what I want, and you just write it. The second question is going to be, what do I want the most? Now, that might be a surprising answer because what you might find your subconscious to give you as an answer was not even on a list from what you want. So you write down what I want the most, you answer it. The third question is going to be, what outcomes do I want? Because a lot of us think we want things because we associate a certain outcome with having them. The tragedy for successful entrepreneurs is they get the outcome, but the feeling doesn't come. And then the real emptiness settles in. So what do I want? What do I want the most? What outcomes, plural, do I want? The fourth question is, what outcome do I want the most? Once you have an answer to what outcome you want the most, and your outcome might be, I just want to be home with my kids while making $250,000 a year. And I'm terrified to say it out loud. Don't have to, but that's your outcome. I want a freedom of being home with my kids, traveling the world, working 5 hours a week. Is that even possible? You have to come up with that outcome. Once you write that outcome, then the fun begins. Then you say every day, what is a one step? But you're asking it this way. What is the one decision I am to make? One action I am to take today to live from the outcome I desire for my life? If I were this person in this space, What would I do today? And that is your one non-negotiable priority. You do that. And then the vision unfolds through you without you limiting it with your fear. Then it becomes clear looking back. And you say, oh my gosh, look at what I've created. Panic comes when you try to see what to create, looking back, looking forward. Your brain doesn't have receptors to perceive it. Your heart has no energy to tune to. So, right here in this moment, with infinite love in your heart for you and for your sacred project, you get to answer those questions, and then you get to implement daily and then see the miracles unfold. And I've got to tell you, if somebody were to ask me whether I saw my company being where it is right now, throwing and thriving, growing and thriving with new coaches and new staff, I didn't plan for it. This is just, it was one question in my heart. With all vulnerability, do you know what I want the most? What my answer was? I want to be the purest tool in the hands of the divine today. I want to serve the one that only I can serve, in a way that only I can serve, in a way that they're seeking. And so that's it. During the day, I would say, what is one decision to make, one action step to take? And one day it was go to Hawaii. Look, my mom flew to Hawaii, was woken up at 3 a.m, and it was, here's the app you're going to create. And that is how the app was born. Okay, so it's miraculous. This program is miraculous for anybody who can joyfully enjoy it.
I think your process is so well laid out, and it's something I practice as well. It's so funny because like you were saying, looking back, it's hard, or it's easier to see how you arrived to where you are, but it's hard to connect the dots if you're trying to just look at the now and visualizing the future immediately and saying this is the outcome I need or want. But if you instead break it down into simple steps and allow yourself the grace of knowing that here are the things that I did accomplish today, which is often what I do. Like I have it all over my wall and little spreadsheets everywhere on my iPhone, that here are the 3 things I accomplished today that is related to the outcome that I'm desiring.
Yeah. So that's it. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Despite our addiction to complicating things as humans, we can simplify it.
We can simplify it. And it's almost akin to the notion of being present in the moment when you're doing meditation and bringing your gaze to a center and just visualizing that moment to the frontal lobe and recognizing your breath in that moment. It's almost similar to that because our life is broken down into those moments.
I love that. I believe that fully. And I think that, I'm an animal person. I have 3 dogs. And I am so infinitely grateful for each one of them because, it's like you said, it's those moments of just, I have this beautiful girl, Doodle. She's my youngest one. And I'll just hold her. She is a love bug and she just loves to give love.
Aww.
And I'll hold her. And, and I tell my husband, there is nothing I want now. She grounds me into presence of complete love. And now from that state, of course, I can go create a program or support a group or lead a conversation. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Victoria. I loved your story. I love the journey and talking about how from a young age you were able to recognize that even though there were challenges externally and lack of freedom externally, you found that you can still have the freedom in your heart accessible at any point.
We are always free to love. I think what has harmed humanity the most is addiction to self-righteousness. I think religions went to war over it. Governments went to war over it, over who's right and who's wrong. And I think ultimately we all have a right to love. Undeniable, most empowering, most freeing right to love.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I hope to have you back. That was
Anytime.
And if you're visiting San Diego, we'll have to figure out a way to connect face to face one day.
Would love that. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in, sweet soul. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful for your kind review on Apple Podcast. Simply click on the link in the show notes to leave your lovely feedback and uplift our spirits. Your support means the world to me and helps our show thrive. So please show me your love and continue to practice Omni Mindfulness.